welcome to the NT Recap. I am Sarah REUBEN and we have so much to talk about tonight on the show. First of all, we're going to jump off into the plethora of new jobs in the lead up to Dry. We're going to look at the abundance of upcoming business development in the NT, and we're going to have a deep dive into vaccination and travel. I am joined by some amazing co-hosts tonight. I've got Ashley MANICAROS and SINCLAIR Hunt today, and we are strapped in for a big show. So we're going to jump right in and start talking about the surge of jobs here in the NT, all across the NT, in the lead up to Dry. We're mainly looking at the hospitality and tourism sector, but also across agriculture. They're thinking that they are going to need about 7,000 workers up here in the NT. Ashley, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, look, I've got to say to you that it has actually reached a crisis stage. When you go to one of the hospitality venues in Darwin or even in Alice Springs, there's signs up saying that they are desperately looking for workers. I was at the cab last Friday night and there was a sign up saying they're looking for receptionists and housekeepers. In Alice Springs, they're looking for housekeepers. They can't bring on about 25% of their rooms. And that's just the start. And the agriculture sector, which you mentioned, is also looking for workers with their season starting.
Yeah, there's all kinds of incentives that they're trying to put in place to bring up seasonal workers for fruit and vegetable picking. SINCLAIR?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things they have to do is to try and get boots on deck there, is to put these bonuses in place, visa extensions if they do things like that, because bottom line is they have trouble getting a lot of local people to do these fruit picking jobs, and that's the bottom line.
There's even been talk about reducing HECS debt for uni students if they'll come up. These are notoriously hard to fill positions due to they tend to be seasonal work, short contracts, generally very hard conditions and low pay. So we really need to look at ways to incentivize people to come and do this kind of work and maybe offer some kind of long-term contracts around the clock so it doesn't leave them out of work at the end of like a 4-month stint.
No, so the Northern Territory government's offered a $1,000 bonus to get workers here and then a couple $100 a week for the length of their stay. The federal government's always had incentives. There's another one announced last week, which was a $6,000 relocation to a regional area. So there's certainly money around, but there hasn't been a huge take-up. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to come to work in the Northern Territory at the start of the dry season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, beautiful,
isn't it? It's the best part of the world.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if it was like that, all year round, there'd be 1 million people living here, let's be honest.
Yeah, the Dry is certainly the best time to come up and visit. Please do. We're going to move right along onto all the business developments upcoming in the NT, across the entirety of the NT. The new Santos $4.7 billion offshore gas field, the Sun Cable $22 billion solar farm near Tennant Creek with renewable energy, the Sea Farms $1.5 billion prawn farm. Do you want to talk us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so these developments, some of them have been on the drawing board for a while, and there's actually another one there that hasn't received a lot of publicity at the moment, but there's talk that the Little Mindle site, which is right next door to the casino, the vacant block there, the big grassed area, could actually be potentially developed. I know the block sold recently, so that could actually be developed. But we talked about jobs in the hospitality industry. Then in things like the Santos development, where with the Bayou Undone field, which is going to run out of gas probably in the next 5 or 6 years, they need to bring on the Barossa field. And so they've indicated that Darwin will be the staging post for that. And that's
is there going to be a lot more localised jobs? They're going to recruit a lot more locally?
What you'll see is the gas come on board, and there'll be a lot of work associated with the actual LNG plant, which is already over at Wickham Point. And it's got shutdowns which are worth several $100 million. So that's where the Northern Territory, that's where the Darwin community will see the jobs, because these things usually only have 300 or 400 full-time people. Then you move on to Sun Cable, where they're talking about building the solar arrays out at East Arm, and that's going to be like a factory arrangement. So that's huge. Plus the construction of that, and that's based around Elliott, just south of Elliott, and you're talking about 120 square kilometres of solar arrays.
A fairly lengthy process then to get all that built.
And then more importantly, it's about a 4,000 kilometre cable. So they've got to do all this preparatory work, so there's a bit of work there. And then Project Sea Dragon, which is really huge, is aquaculture, and they're talking about doing 10,000 tonnes of prawns a month out of a cattle station near the West Australian border that's named now escapes me. I should know it, shouldn't I? But that's huge. There's 10,000 acres of ponds set up there, but they haven't got to final investment decision.
Yeah, what are the actual benefits to Territorians when it comes to these like really big developments?
Well, private investment is huge, and that's been one of the key recommendations of the Territory Economic Reconstruction Commission. They said we need private investment. So the benefits of that are, apart from the jobs, which everyone's chasing, is that you then see that there's flow-on effects into the community. So, for example, if you look at the hotel, you'd have a new hotel residential area in that potentially Little Mindle, which would then add to living for people to come here, holiday here, so you've got a flow-on effect there. And then the benefits for government are things like taxation, more people, better for schools, better numbers, to generate more housing. It just flows on.
Yeah, I get really worried about that boom and bust cycle that seems to happen a lot here in the NT, where it's like big business come in with big developments and they really push up the prices of housing and things like that, and then they leave, and then everything falls apart, and then Territorians are the ones there at the end to pick up the pieces, and that really worries me about these new big projects.
It is, and it has been a real problem, and we've seen it with Impex, and we actually saw it with Vesties. When the Vesties Meatworks was built in the 1900s, that was actually the same problem. It was a 4,000 person construction. The other thing that happens with this is there's one other industry I didn't talk about, which is defence. It's got some major defence. Now that's one of those industries that has a flat line growth. So what you'll see is there'll be lots of capital expenditure on defence bases like Larrakia, like at Tyndall, in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and then you'll see the families move in there. So that might flatten out a little bit of the boom of the past.
And this is all happening like with a backdrop of like ecological disaster here in the NT. We've already seen like the effects of global warming, and it's only going to get better. So it's really difficult to think about like, how does this help like the carbon emission projects and trying to keep us like in negative, like not just in the NT but also in Australia.
Well, that's where Sun Cable's supposed to be the one that's to be the benefit. The challenge for the Northern Territory is that if that electricity goes up to Singapore, which is where it's supposed to go, Singapore will actually get the carbon credits for that generation, not us. So we've got to find a way of offsetting that.
Yeah, and make sure some of that renewable energy stays here in the NT. It's very important. Yep. All right, let's move along. We're going to look at vaccinations and the no jab, no fly policy, which Qantas announced at the end of last year, about October last year. Yet the rollout of vaccines here in Australia and the NT have been a little bit slow. It's a federal rollout, and there has been little hiccups along the way with the AstraZeneca vaccine just getting announced that it's only not good for people under the age of 50. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, they've taken a common sense approach, haven't they? I mean, everyone has, because of the chance of blood clotting. I think it's a fairly fatal thing to mistake to have happen to you, even though it's out of your control. In terms of the Pfizer, I mean, I haven't had the jab yet. I haven't had a call-up. I might be in the too healthy category, and I'm not a risk, but just so everyone knows, I'll be having the AstraZeneca. I'm not under 50, so
couldn't afford me, mate.
Thanks for taking one for the team there.
That's all right.
So is this only for international flights they're talking about for that?
Yeah,
not
and
domestic though.
Domestic and New Zealand flights will not be included in it. It'll be like a Australian NT bubble that don't require the jabs.
Yeah, so the bubble's already started today, I think, with New Zealand, which was pretty interesting. But a lot of people are talking about it. Certainly, the head of Qantas, Alan Joyce, came out and said last year that they might not be letting anyone fly that hasn't had the vaccination. When you see what's happening in other countries, in the UK.
And there are some people that will be not able to have the vaccine for medical reasons, such as pregnant people. So I'm sure there'll be some kind of chat around the exemptions for that. But it's going to be interesting how they're able to regulate it on an international strategy. Like, how do you prove someone from Australia has had a vaccine? Like, are they going to give everyone a card or? Yeah.
Well, there's vaccinations cards now, and in terms of when you go to Africa, you've got to have certain set of vaccinations anyway. So look, I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I'm just happy to do whatever I can do, keep health and safety.
I won't be travelling anywhere for a while. I think I'll just be staying put in Darwin for a while. Just play it safe. Let them come to us. Let them come here. Spend the money here. No, been there 100 times. Done that.
Come here and work. Fantastic. All right.
Come and pour Ashley's beer at the Cavanagh before he pours himself.
I made the bed.
Fantastic. We're going to move right along. We have Matt and Damo hitting the NT. That's right. They are somewhere in this glorious territory of ours, ready to show us where they are. Hello there.
A little bit of a warm day today, but that is just fine because we're going to be under some canopy cover on the monsoon forest trails out here near East Point Reserve. Matthew's over there getting the camera ready. G'day, Matthew. That's around 2.5 kilometres. I recommend a hat. Let's go and see what animals we can find. One of the most incredible things about this spot is the location. We're literally 5 minutes from the heart of Darwin.
We've got a massive dragonfly. Now, because I am shooting 4K, I'll be able to zoom in much closer and get that finer detail that you really want from your shots.
What we've got right here in front of us is a frill-necked lizard. The sun goes down in 20 minutes, so we're about to go have a short break and come back. Because during the day you get some species that you don't get at night time and vice versa. And you know what they say, at night, the jungle really comes alive. On the shoulders here, you can see he's all puffed up, this massive cane coat. That's where the bufo toxin comes from. Don't go too close, mate, because he'll probably pin it. And that's his little sleeping spot. What did I tell you? We've just come across a spider smashing another spider.
Welcome to the NT Recap, Matt and Damo.
Good to be back again. We thoroughly enjoyed our bit of a muckabout around East Point this week, but it wasn't all the monsoon forest trails. We stuck a little bit of a hidden gem in there. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Tell us a little more.
The mangrove boardwalk. So where the monsoon forest trails are, literally not even a couple of minutes drive, a little bit further down near, what's that big lake called?
Alexander.
Lake Alexander. Right near there is the monsoon boardwalk, and that's what is pretty mint, especially when the tide is coming in. You get the water comes over the boardwalk. It's pretty mint.
Especially if you want to get your camera out as well. It's a perfect spot for birds and wildlife.
Hey boys, there seems to be a lot of biodiversity out at East Point. That looks pretty spectacular on that footage.
They're really, mate. There's a hell of a lot of different variety of animals out here, and like we were saying before, you know, you don't have to travel too far from Darwin City to be able to go and see wildlife. It's really close to the city, and you can enjoy it. And because there is people walking through the trails all the time, they're pretty content. They will stay there. They won't run off straight away because they are used to people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel today. Can't wait to see where you are next week. See you later.
Catch you guys.
Oh my gosh, it's seeing footage like that makes me just want to go out, like much
Amazing,
much
wasn't
more.
it?
Well, is that the best place to watch a sunset from in Darwin? I mean,
Pretty
East Point?
magical.
I personally
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a close call, that and Nightcliff, right?
Yeah, okay.
All right, what is going on in Darwin coming up this week? We're in the
probably
lead up
best
to
part
dry.
about things in Darwin at the moment is the school holidays have now finished. So now everyone's back to school, so it's a good start for the parents. In Alice Springs, got a new coffee shop opened up for Merlot coffee. That's Merlot, not Merlot, like the wine. All right. So that's opened up outside the Alice 24-hour shop there. In Darwin, we've got a couple of music gigs coming up. One Tropical Day on your screens now. Down at the ski club, we've got Daryl Braithwaite performing on his last tour, Never Again, I Promise You. Also got John Stevens, formerly of In Excess as well, and Rose Tattoo, Angry Anderson, who'll be performing there as well. So that's on the 24th. Also on that same day will be the Thailand Songkran Water Festival down at the waterfront. That kicks off from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. So the other gig, Tropical Day, starts at 2 p.m. So you can take them both in if you want. You know, a bit of music, head down the waterfront for some Thai food afterwards. Catherine, K-Town, the hot springs have now reopened.
I actually was there swimming today. It is glorious.
Were you feeling cold because it's the dry weather now, cooler weather?
yeah, I needed to go and
Can I
warm up.
pose a question on that? I'm sorry, I've got to ask the question. If it's 38 degrees in Catherine, why would you get in a hot spring?
I know.
Can I tell you, it was
Can
20
someone answer me that?
degrees last night in Catherine. I was like, had a blanket up to here. It was glorious. I went like 8 a.m. this morning.
I don't get it. I've lived
Have you
it too
did
long.
you wear a beanie?
Sorry, you can't appreciate real joy.
I can't appreciate cold weather, no. I struggle with that.
So yeah, that's just reopened. They had to shut it down for a while there because of the rising water levels. Also, there's a couple of comedy shows coming up. You've got
My favourite.
Carl Barron, also Arj Barker. Carl Barron will be on from the 27th to the 1st of May. And then there'll be Arj Barker on the 30th of April as well.
And I also just want to say, they're at the Entertainment Centre. This Wednesday, Daniel Sloss, also at the Entertainment Centre. He is one of the most amazing stand-ups that I've ever seen. Go, you won't regret it. If you do, blame it on me. I'll take full responsibility.
And also, we just recently had the AFLW Grand Final on down south, and the Crows got pipped by 18 points by the Brisbane Lions. Had a few of the NT rep girls down there playing for Adelaide, Ange Foley, Stevie Lee Thompson, Danielle Ponta, and did their sport, did the club proud. Unfortunately, they went down, but the things they're doing on the national stage is amazing. And
Great. It was a great game of footy. I watched it, and I got to say to you, the Brisbane girls really tried very hard.
Yeah.
Ange Foley, by the looks of it, has hurt her knee, so she might have done an ACL knee,
Yeah.
which is really sad
no.
because Ange is one of the best footballers running around the competition. It's good.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sinclair.
lots more to come.
Get amongst it. We are heading into the dry, perfect time to really experience all the gloriousness of the NT. We are very lucky today to be joined by Suzanne Chambers, who is the producer of Ultrasound and also a Darwin local. That's Unsound. Sorry, I keep saying that. Unsound. I said I was going to do that, and I did. Hello there, Suzanne.
Hi guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Now, just to give the viewers just a little bit of an update about the movie Unsound. It's been nominated and won numerous awards, including the Best Indie Film at the AACTA Awards. It stars actors such as Christine Anu, Todd McKenney, Rhys Noy from Game of Thrones, Yana Panadilis. Also, you are Darwin born and raised. An actor, a writer, a producer. Unsound's going to be on at the Darwin International Film Festival on May 3rd. You're seeing some clips of it right now. It's just massive, huge. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, no thanks. It's terribly exciting. I can't wait to be back in the warmth, to be frank, and come home.
Great. So you've worked as an optometrist, a Master of Public Health. You've got a grad certificate in university learning and teacher studies. You're a yoga teacher. You're a mum of 3. You're a producer. Like, the list is just endless. And you're from the NT. Can you tell me, like, how you managed to have done all those things? Like, where, how?
Yeah, gosh, it sounds like I was a massive overachiever. But you know what? The good thing about growing up in Darwin is that you do get so many opportunities. Like, you really do. And like I know I even just started with the Duke of Edinburgh Award, you know, may he rest in peace. But that really gave me my fuel to do volunteer work and, you know, with Meals and Wills and at the Royal Darwin Hospital and really wanting to make a positive difference up there. And I think with the teachers that I had at school, like they were so encouraging. And I think because we're smaller, right, up there, so, you know, if you want to, you can do these things that maybe in bigger cities you might not be able to. And I think it's just that drive of, just want to make a really big positive difference and keep going, really, which is like why I made this movie as well.
Yeah.
Suzanne, can I just ask, you've got a very diverse cast with Christine Anu, Todd McKenney, but you've also got a deaf actress, Yana Pandelis. Can you talk us through the process very quickly on how you came to cast her in the production of Unsound?
Yeah, it took us a long time actually, over 12 months, because all our deaf characters are played by deaf actors, but we end up having to go even internationally to try to find, you know, the right actor. But as soon as we got Yana's self-test, and it was by chance that the casting director remembered her from some acting class like years and years ago, and we asked her to audition for it. And then as soon as we saw it, we just knew like she was the one, you know. So yeah, we're incredibly excited.
Sinclair.
Suzanne, what's the number one reason that you come back to Darwin? Is it for the lifestyle, to see family, the pig shooting, or you're only here for the beer?
You know, my nickname in Darwin when I was in high school was actually Tuies, and it's like, and it wasn't even because of the beer. It was the way my name's spelled, right? But anyway, that's a Darwin. Must be a Darwin thing. But look, I just love. I mean, look, I'm coming up. I know for the screening of the film, which actually it really originated from Darwin, because one of my a deaf boy was actually very close family friends with us when I was growing up. And he unfortunately actually took his own life, and which again kind of made me really want to make a difference to minority groups, and that, you know, it shouldn't matter what background you have, or ability or gender or whatever. You know, love is love. Yeah. And the fact that I do want to share it with, you know, I feel like all my friends and family up there, you know, and to go, hey, look, this is something that can really inspire, particularly the young people, young audiences as well. And we're finding it's just kind of catching like other people that we didn't even realize, you know, who love the film. Yeah, so it's great.
Thank
good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Suzanne Chambers. The movie UNSOUND will be playing at the Darwin International Film Festival on May 3rd. Do not miss it. That brings us to the end of the show tonight. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me on the panel tonight, Ashley and Sinclair.
Great team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week on the NT Recap. Bye.